Emma Rodriguez clutched her boarding pass with sweaty palms as she made her way down the narrow airplane aisle. Her vintage leather portfolio, a treasure found at a thrift store, bumped against her hip with each nervous step. The rain from Seattle's morning drizzle still clung to her dark curls, and her carefully chosen blazer felt suddenly inadequate among the sea of designer luggage and confident passengers settling into first class. She had never flown first class before. In fact, she had barely flown at all. The boarding pass in her trembling fingers felt like a golden ticket, though she couldn't shake the feeling that someone would soon discover the mistake and send her back to economy where she belonged. "Excuse me, I think you might be in my seat," came a gentle voice beside her. Emma's heart plummeted. She looked up to see a man in his early 30s, with kind brown eyes and an expensive but understated suit. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and there was something about his calm demeanor that made her feel both embarrassed and oddly at ease. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," Emma stammered, fumbling with her boarding pass. "I knew this was too good to be." True, the gate agent must have made a mistake when she upgraded me. "I'll just head back to economy and wait," the man said, raising a gentle hand. "Let me see your ticket." Emma handed it over, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Around them, other first-class passengers were settling in with practiced ease, their conversations flowing with the casual confidence of people who belonged in spaces like this. A woman across the aisle whispered something to her companion, both of them glancing at Emma's modest attire with barely concealed amusement. The man studied her boarding pass for a moment, then looked at his own. A small smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Actually, it looks like the airline made an error in my favor. This is indeed your seat. I'm Jonathan, by the way, Jonathan Blake." "Emma Rodriguez," she replied, still uncertain. "But are you sure? I don't want to cause any trouble." "No trouble at all," Jonathan assured her, settling into the seat beside hers. "These things happen more often than you'd think." As Emma finally allowed herself to sink into the luxurious leather seat, she couldn't help but notice how different this felt from her usual travel experiences. The flight attendant approached with genuine warmth, offering champagne and warm towels with the kind of service Emma had only seen in movies. "First time in first class?" Jonathan asked, noticing her wide-eyed wonder. Emma nodded, then immediately felt foolish. "Is it that obvious?" "Not at all," he said kindly. "I just remember my first time. It's quite an experience." As the plane lifted off from Seattle's gray skies, Emma found herself relaxing despite her initial anxiety. Jonathan was an easy conversationalist, asking about her work with genuine interest rather than the polite small talk she was used to from strangers. "I'm an artist," she explained, her voice gaining confidence. "Trying to be. I do graphic design to pay the bills, but I paint in my free time. I'm actually flying to San Francisco for a job interview at a tech company. It's probably a long shot, but ... double quotes, which company?"
Asked. "Blake Industries."
"They're looking for someone to head up their creative department. I know I don't have the typical background they're probably looking for, but I figured it was worth a try." Something flickered across Jonathan's expression, but it was gone so quickly that Emma wondered if she had imagined it. "Tell me about your art," he said, changing the subject smoothly. For the next hour, Emma found herself opening up in a way she rarely did with strangers. Jonathan listened with genuine attention as she described her paintings, her dreams of having a gallery show someday, and her struggles to make ends meet while pursuing her passion. He asked thoughtful questions and seemed genuinely interested in her perspective on creativity and business. "You know," he said as they began their descent into San Francisco, "I think you might be surprised by how much companies value fresh perspectives. Sometimes the best innovations come from people who think differently, who haven't been shaped by traditional expectations." Emma smiled, feeling more hopeful than she had in months. "Thank you for saying that, and thank you for being so kind about the seat mix-up. Most people wouldn't have been so gracious." "Most people don't get the chance to meet someone as interesting as you," Jonathan replied, and Emma felt a warm flutter in her chest. As they prepared to disembark, Jonathan handed her a business card. "In case you ever want to discuss art, business, or anything else. I'd love to hear how your interview goes." Emma glanced at the card, noting the elegant design but not really reading it carefully. "Thank you, Jonathan. His flight turned out much better than I expected." "Mine too," he said with that mysterious smile she was beginning to recognize, as Emma gathered her belongings and prepared to face whatever awaited her at Blake Industries. She couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter had been more significant than just a simple seating mix-up. Jonathan had treated her with a respect and kindness that she wasn't used to receiving from successful businessmen, and their conversation had left her feeling more confident about her abilities and her worth. Walking through the San Francisco airport, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. Maybe she really could succeed in the corporate world without losing her authentic self. Maybe her unconventional background would be an asset rather than a liability. Maybe, just maybe, this job interview would be the beginning of something wonderful. She had no idea how right she was, that the kind stranger from the airplane was about to play a much larger role in her future than either of them could have imagined. The city sprawled before her through the airport windows, full of possibilities and promise. Tomorrow would bring the interview that could change everything. But tonight, Emma allowed herself to believe that good things were finally coming her way. Little did she know that her life was about to transform in ways she never could have dreamed, and that the gentle man who had shown her such unexpected kindness was holding the key to her future in ways neither of them yet understood. The Blake Industries building pierced the San Francisco skyline like a crystal spear, its 43 floors of gleaming glass reflecting the morning sun in brilliant fragments. Emma stood on the sidewalk below, craning her neck to see the top, feeling smaller with each passing second. Her simple black dress, chosen carefully from her limited wardrobe, suddenly felt like a costume she had no business wearing in this temple of corporate success. The lobby was a cathedral of marble and steel, where every surface seemed designed to remind visitors of their insignificance. Emma's modest heels clicked against the polished floor, each step echoing her growing anxiety. Other people moved through the space with purposeful confidence, their expensive shoes silent on the same marble that announced her every move. Emma Rodriguez. A woman approached with the predatory grace of someone accustomed to wielding power. She was stunning in the way that money could make someone stunning. With platinum blonde hair pulled into a perfect chignon, and a burgundy suit that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent. "I'm Victoria Sterling. We'll be interviewing together today."
Emma.
Extended her hand with genuine warmth.
To meet you, Victoria.
Victoria's handshake was brief and calculating, her ice-blue eyes scanning Emma's outfit with surgical precision. How refreshing to see such a practical approach to interview attire. Very down-earth. "I admire people who shop within their means." The words landed like small daggers, each one wrapped in silk, but sharp enough to draw blood. Emma recognized the technique from years of similar encounters. The smile that never reached the eyes. The compliment that was actually an insult. The casual cruelty of someone who had never had to count pennies or choose between looking professional and paying rent. "Thank you," Emma replied evenly, refusing to take the bait. "I believe it's more important to focus on qualifications than appearances." Before Victoria could respond, a distinguished man in his 50s approached them.
Oh.
His gray hair was perfectly styled, and his expensive suit bore the subtle markers of someone who had climbed the corporate ladder with methodical determination. "Ladies, I'm Richard Harrison, Director of Human Resources. Shall we begin?" The conference room occupied an entire corner of the 32nd floor, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the San Francisco Bay. Emma tried not to be intimidated by the massive mahogany table or the leather chairs that probably cost more than her car, but she couldn't help feeling like an imposter in this world of casual luxury. Victoria settled into her chair with the ease of someone who belonged in rooms like this, her movements graceful and confident. She placed a leather portfolio on the table, its brass corners gleaming in the afternoon light. "Let's start with your backgrounds," Harrison said, though his eyes were already gravitating toward Victoria like a compass finding north. "Miss Sterling, would you like to begin?" Victoria's smile was radiant. "Of course. I graduated summa cum laude from Stanford Business School, where I focused on strategic innovation and market disruption." I spent last summer interning at Goldman Sachs, where I contributed to a merger worth over $2 billion. Before that, I completed my undergraduate degree at Harvard, where I was president of the Business Society. She paused to touch the pearl necklace at her throat, a gesture that seemed casual but was clearly calculated. My father always taught me that preparation meets opportunity, and I've been preparing for a role like this my entire life. Harrison nodded approvingly, making notes on his tablet with obvious enthusiasm. Impressive credentials, Miss Sterling. Your family's connections in the industry must provide valuable insights as well. Emma felt her stomach tighten. She thought of her mother, Rosa Rodriguez, who cleaned office buildings at night to pay for Emma's art supplies, whose hands were rough from years of hard work, who had never had the luxury of teaching her daughter. That preparation met opportunity because they were too busy surviving each day. Miss Rodriguez. Harrison's attention turned to her with visible reluctance, as if he were fulfilling an obligation rather than conducting a genuine interview. To Emma straightened in her chair. I have a bachelor's degree in fine arts from UC Berkeley, which I paid for through scholarships and part-time work. For the past 4 years, I've worked as a graphic designer for small businesses, helping them develop their visual identity and marketing materials. I've also freelanced for nonprofits, creating campaigns that increase their donation rates by an average of 35%. Victoria's laugh was like the tinkling of expensive crystal. How noble. Nonprofit work must be so fulfilling when you don't have to worry about actual profit margins. Actually, Emma said, her voice gaining strength, nonprofit work taught me how to create maximum impact with minimal resources. When every dollar matters, you learn to be creative, efficient, and strategic in ways that abundance doesn't require. Harrison barely looked up from his notes. Miss Sterling, your experience with high-stakes financial environments must have prepared you well for the pressures of corporate leadership. Absolutely, Victoria agreed. When you're dealing with billion-dollar transactions, you develop a certain perspective on risk and reward that smaller ventures simply can't provide. Emma watched this exchange with growing frustration. It was becoming clear that this wasn't really an interview at all. It was a performance, with Victoria as the star and Emma as an unwilling extra brought in to make the process look legitimate. Let's try a scenario, Harrison said. You discover that the CEO's calendar has a critical conflict. 2 equally important meetings are scheduled at the same time, and both involve major clients. How do you handle this? Emma leaned forward. First, I'd immediately assess the business impact of each meeting. Which client represents more revenue? Which relationship is more fragile? Which meeting has the most flexibility and timing? Then I'd contact both parties within 10 minutes of discovering the conflict. Present 3 alternative solutions and have backup plans ready for any complications that might arise. Victoria looked momentarily flustered. Obviously, I'd delegate the problem to my assistant. That's what support staff is for. Leadership is about knowing when to step back and let others handle the details. Harrison made another enthusiastic note about Victoria's response, ignoring the fact that she had essentially admitted she wouldn't actually solve the problem herself. The morning continued with increasingly complex scenarios. Emma answered each question with precision and creativity, drawing on her years of problem-solving in resource-constrained environments. She proposed innovative marketing strategies, outlined cost-effective team management approaches, and demonstrated a deep understanding of how creativity and business strategy intersected. Victoria, meanwhile, relied heavily on buzzwords and delegation, her responses becoming more generic with each question. When asked about handling creative differences within a team, she suggested leveraging synergies to optimize collaborative outcomes. A phrase that sounded impressive but meant absolutely nothing, yet Harrison's attention remained fixed on Victoria. Like a spotlight, while Emma's contributions seemed to vanish into thin air. Every insightful answer she gave was met with polite indifference, while Victoria's empty corporate speak earned enthusiastic nods. During the lunch break, Emma stepped into the hallway to call her mother. Her hands shook as she dialed the familiar number. Mia, how's it going? Raza's voice was warm with hope and concern. I don't know, Mama, Emma whispered, pressing her forehead against the cool glass window that overlooked the city. I'm answering all their questions perfectly, but the other candidate, she has everything I don't. The right schools, the right connections, the right background. Emma Rosa Rodriguez, her mother said firmly, you listen to me. You have something. Those people can't buy or inherit. You have heart, intelligence, and the strength that comes from fighting for everything you've earned. Don't you dare give up. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Now go show them what we're made of. But when Emma returned to the conference room, she found Victoria and Harrison in quiet conversation, their heads bent together like conspirators. Victoria looked up with a cat-like smile when Emma entered. Oh, Emma, we were just discussing the cultural fit requirements for this position. It's so important to have someone who understands our clientele's expectations and can represent the company appropriately in high society functions. The words hit Emma like ice water. She had heard variations of this speech before, dressed up in different language but carrying the same poison. You don't look like us. You don't sound like us. You don't belong here. The afternoon session focused on presentation skills and client relations. Emma outlined her experience working with diverse communities, her ability to translate complex ideas into accessible language, and her track record of building genuine relationships with clients from all backgrounds. Victoria spoke about charity, galas and country club connections, about the importance of maintaining certain standards and expectations. Her presentation was polished but hollow, like a beautiful box with nothing inside. As the interview concluded, Harrison shook Victoria's hand warmly. We'll be in touch very soon, Miss Sterling. I have a feeling you'll fit in perfectly here.
I guess.
Handshake with Emma was perfunctory, distracted. Thank you for your time, Miss Rodriguez. We'll let you know. Walking back through the marble lobby, Emma felt the familiar weight of rejection settling on her shoulders. She had performed flawlessly, but performance wasn't enough when the game was rigged from the start. Outside on the sidewalk, she looked up once more at the gleaming tower of Blake Industries. Somewhere in that building, decisions were being made that would shape her future. And she had the sinking feeling that those decisions had been made before. She ever walked through the door. But what Emma didn't know was that someone else had been watching the entire process unfold, someone with the power to change everything, and they were not pleased with what they had witnessed. 3 days passed like an eternity. Emma sat in the cramped kitchen of her studio apartment, helping her mother Rosa hem a bridesmaid dress for one of their regular clients. The sewing machine hummed steadily in the background, a familiar sound that usually brought comfort, but now only emphasized the silence from Blake Industries. Rosa Rodriguez was a small woman with weathered hands and kind eyes that had seen too much struggle. She worked nights cleaning corporate offices, saving every penny so Emma could pursue her dreams. At 52, she still believed in fairy tales and happy endings, especially for her daughter. They'll call Mia, Rosa said without looking up. From her precise stitching, you were meant for bigger things than this neighborhood. Emma's phone buzzed against the worn Formica table. Unknown number. Her heart hammered as she answered. Miss Rodriguez, this is Jennifer from Blake Industries. I'm calling to inform you that we've decided to move forward with another candidate. We appreciate your time, but we felt Miss Sterling was a better cultural fit for our organization. ... Words hit Emma like a physical blow. Cultural fit. It's the same poisonous phrase Victoria had used. Dressed up in corporate speak, but carrying the same message. You don't belong here, I understand, Emma managed. Thank you for letting me know. But as she moved to hang up, voices drifted through the phone. The call hadn't disconnected properly. Is that the little artist girl? Victoria's distinctive laugh crackled through the speaker. God, I thought she'd never leave. Did you see her? Dress? I've seen better outfits at thrift stores. Emma's blood turned to ice. She pressed the phone closer to her ear, her mother looking up in concern. Harrison's voice joined the conversation. Don't worry about it, Victoria. Blake's been traveling in Asia for 2 weeks. By the time he returns next Monday, this will all be settled. He'll never even know there was another candidate. Perfect, Victoria purred. Daddy always said the best deals are the ones where everyone gets what they want. I get the job, you get your promotion to VP, and nobody has to pretend we actually considered that nobody from nowhere. The line finally went dead. Emma stared at the phone in her trembling hands, the full scope of the deception washing over her like a tide of betrayal. What happened, Mia? Rosa asked, setting down her needle. They didn't just reject me, Mama. They conspired to hide my interview from the actual decision-maker. The CEO doesn't even know I exist. Rosa's face hardened with an anger Emma rarely saw. Those people think they can step on us because we don't have fancy names or rich fathers. But you're twice as smart as any of them. Emma's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, but this time the message was different. Please come to Blake Industries tomorrow at 10 a.m. Top floor executive reception. Ask for Jonathan Blake. Emma stared at the text, her heart stopping. Jonathan Blake, the kind stranger from the airplane. The CEO who had been kept in the dark about her interview? Someone wants to see me, she whispered. The truth revealed the next morning. Emma stood once again before the gleaming tower of Blake Industries. But this time, she wasn't heading to the 32nd floor conference room. This time, she was going to the very top. The executive elevator was a different world from the main lobby lifts. Mahogany panels, soft lighting, and a silence that spoke of power and privilege. Emma's reflection looked back at her from the polished surfaces, and for once, she didn't see someone who didn't belong. She saw someone who had earned the right to be there. The top floor was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of San Francisco Bay, and the furnishings spoke of understated elegance rather than flashy wealth. A receptionist with genuine warmth directed Emma to a corner office. Emma Rodriguez came a familiar voice. She turned to see Jonathan Blake rising from behind a massive desk. But he wasn't the casually dressed traveler from the airplane. This was the CEO version. Perfectly tailored suit, confident posture, the kind of presence that commanded attention without demanding it. Jonathan, she breathed. You're the CEO of Blake Industries, he finished with that same gentle smile. She remembered. I'm sorry for the deception on the plane. I don't usually reveal who I am to fellow travelers. It tends to change the conversation. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. You knew. When I told you about my interview, you knew. I was coming to work for you. I did. I was intrigued. It's not often someone describes their dreams with such passion and authenticity. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Please, sit. We have a lot to discuss. Emma remained standing, her mind reeling. If you're the CEO, then why wasn't I interviewed by you? Why did Harrison and Victoria act like you were out of the country? Jonathan's expression darkened. Because I was supposed to be. I cut my Asia trip short when I heard we were hiring for the creative director position. I wanted to be involved in the process personally. He pulled out a tablet and swiped through. Several screens. Imagine my surprise when I discovered that, according to our records, we only interviewed one candidate. Victoria Sterling, Emma said quietly. Exactly. But that seemed odd, because our HR guidelines require interviewing at least 3 qualified candidates for senior positions. So I did some digging. He turned the tablet toward her, showing email chains and calendar entries. I found records of your application, your portfolio submission, and your interview slot. But somehow, none of it made it to my desk. Emma sank into the chair, overwhelmed. They were protecting her. Harrison and Victoria, they planned the whole thing. Tell me everything, Jonathan said, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to getting answers. For the next hour, Emma recounted every detail of her interview experience. Victoria's calculated insults, Harrison's obvious bias, the overheard phone conversation that revealed the full scope of their deception. Jonathan listened with growing anger, making notes and occasionally asking clarifying questions. I've reviewed your portfolio, he said when she finished. Your work is exactly what this company needs. Fresh perspective, genuine creativity, the ability to connect with people authentically rather than just market to them. But Victoria has the connections, the background, the nepotism, Jonathan interrupted. Her father and Harrison had been friends for decades. This was never about qualifications. It was about maintaining the old boys' club. He stood and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. You know what struck me most about our conversation on the plane? Your passion wasn't performed, wasn't calculated or rehearsed. You spoke about your art, your dreams, your struggles with genuine emotion. That's exactly what this company has been missing. So what happens now? Emma asked, hardly daring. To hope? Jonathan turned back to her with a smile that transformed his entire face. Now we fix this. Harrison will be terminated for manipulating the hiring process and violating company policies. Victoria's offer will be rescinded. And you, Emma Rodriguez, are going to help me revolutionize how Blake Industries approaches creativity and innovation. You're offering me the job? I'm offering you something better than a job. I'm offering you a partnership, creative director. With equity stake, full creative control over your department, and the resources to build something extraordinary. Emma felt tears gathering in her eyes. I don't understand. Why would you do this for me? Jonathan sat back down, his expression sincere. Because talent and character matter more than connections and privilege. Because this company needs people who understand struggle, who know how to create something from nothing. And because someone once told me that the best innovations come from people who think differently. You're quoting yourself, Emma said with a shaky laugh. Smart woman. That's exactly why I want you on my team. He extended his hand across the desk. What do you say, Emma Rodriguez? Ready to show this industry what we're made of? As Emma shook his hand, she thought of her mother bent over her sewing machine, working through the night to make other people's dreams beautiful. She thought of every door that had been closed in her face, every room where she hadn't been considered worthy of attention. Yes, she said firmly. Let's change everything. 6 months later, the Blake Industries creative department buzzed with energy that hadn't existed before Emma's arrival. The sterile corporate environment had been transformed into a collaborative workspace where innovation flourished. Emma had hired a diverse team of artists, designers, and thinkers from backgrounds similar to her own. People who brought fresh perspectives and authentic voices to the company's projects. Their first major campaign, a series of advertisements, celebrating real families rather than perfect models, had increased client engagement by 60%. Emma's approach of authentic storytelling resonated with audiences tired of corporate polish and artificial perfection. The board meeting went well, Jonathan said, entering Emma's office with 2 cups of coffee. Their working relationship had evolved into something deeper over the months, built on mutual respect, shared values, and an undeniable connection that had started with kindness on an airplane. They approved the community outreach program, Emma asked hopefully. Not only approved, they're expanding the budget. Your proposal to partner with local art schools and provide scholarships impressed even the most conservative board members. Emma smiled, thinking of all the young artists who would now have opportunities that had once seemed impossible. My mother always said that when good things happen to you, you have a responsibility to lift others up too. Speaking of your mother, she called while you were in the client meeting. She wanted to make sure you're eating enough and not working. Too late, she worries. Emma laughed. Even though I can finally afford to take her out to nice restaurants, she still tries to pack me lunch every morning. Jonathan set down his coffee and moved closer to her desk. Emma, there's something I want to ask you. If it's about the Morrison account, I already have 3 concepts ready for. It's not about work, he said softly. It's about us. Ma looked up at him, her heart beginning to race. Over the months, their professional relationship had deepened into something neither of them had expected. Late nights working on projects had turned into long conversations about dreams and fears. Casual dinners had become treasured moments of connection. I know we agreed to keep things professional, Jonathan continued, but I can't ignore what's happening between us. That day on the plane, when you sat in the wrong seat, you changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. It was the right seat, Emma said quietly. I think it was always meant to be the right seat. Jonathan reached for her hands, his touch sending warmth through her entire being. I love your passion, your integrity, the way you see possibilities where others see problems. I love that you made me remember why I started this company in the first place. You didn't just change my business, Emma. You changed me. I love you. Too, she whispered, the words feeling both new and inevitable. You saw me when everyone else looked right through me. You gave me a chance when no one else would. As Jonathan leaned down to kiss her, Emma thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. A wrong seat on an airplane had led to a rigged interview, which had led to an unexpected revelation, which had led to a transformation that neither of them could have predicted. Sometimes the best things in life came disguised as mistakes. Wrong turns that led to exactly where you were supposed to be. Emma Rodriguez had taken the wrong seat on a flight, but she had found her way to exactly the right life. The view from the top floor of Blake Industries stretched out before them. A city full of dreamers and strivers, people looking for their chance to prove what they were capable of. Emma smiled, knowing that from now on, some of those chances would come from her. From the girl who had once felt invisible, but had learned to see her own worth. In the end, it hadn't been about taking someone else's seat. It had been about claiming her own place in the world and discovering that sometimes kindness between strangers can change everything.